Welcome to Lex's World in our second carbon filters episode. Today we're going to discuss how to size a carbon filter to a particular space, how to place it exactly, and how to maximize its lifespan. For the 101 Basics episode on how they work, please check out the video description because I'm going to assume you know all that stuff for this one. Anyway, sizing a carbon filter to a room properly isn't too hard. It's as much about your exhaust fan and ducting layout as it is about the actual filter. Not only for ideal odor control, but also for best growing conditions, you want to vent out or move all of the air in your grow space about 1 time per minute for smaller personal grows. Because those small grow rooms, they tend to get warmer, and also they're often in residential settings. Meanwhile, changing the air 1 time per 2 or 3 minutes is also acceptable. And if you run a much bigger commercial cannabis grow space, you can get away with venting every 1 time per 5 minutes, but you really don't want to go any lower than that for the health of the plants. Good air movement is vital not only for odor control, but also for proper photosynthesis. Thankfully, most carbon filters and exhaust fans are rated by CFM, or the cubic feet per minute of air that they can move at full blast. Some equipment might be rated by how much air it can move in cubic meters per hour. Same idea, just alter your math as needed. But speaking of that math, let's run through an example. First, figure out how many cubic feet are in your grow space. Let's say it's 8 feet wide by 7 feet long and 6.5 feet high. Just multiply 8 times 7 times 6.5, which equals 364 cubic feet, or 10.3 cubic meters. So you already know, based just off of that you want an inline fan and carbon filter, each with a minimum 364 CFM capacity to do those once per minute exchanges. But hold on, there's extra adjustments that you gotta make. First, adjust for the ducting. If your exhaust duct is fairly straight, you can skip this step, but if it has bends, the true force of your fan will be greatly reduced. So make sure you compensate for that. A 30-degree bend in a duct cuts the power of your fan by 15 to 20%. A hard 90-degree turn cuts air movement by even more, like half of your air movement. Third and final adjustment, carbon filters are more effective at odor control if air doesn't move through them too close to their max capacity. So ideally, the max capacity of the fan should be 20% lower than the max capacity of the carbon filter, at least 20%, which means, let's say that after adjusting for a couple of 30-degree turns in your ducting, you're going to need a fan that can push close to 500 CFM, and if that's the fan, a carbon filter that can handle at least 600 CFM for your 364 cubic foot space. And that's if you're looking to hit those ideal 1 full air exchange per 1 minute statistics. What this translates to in actual equipment is it means that you're going to get gear that's probably in the 6-inch to 8-inch range. This is a 6-inch again. Maybe a 10-inch if there's multiple 90-degree ducting elbows, but that's kind of how it works. So yeah, sizing is really that simple. I'll link to some carbon filters and inline fans I like in the video description as usual. Now for the question of placement. You already know a bit from the previous episode that the carbon filter goes inside the grow space with the air getting pulled into it and through it. You also want to place it up high where the warmest, most humid, most smelly air in your grow room gathers. In some bigger spaces with bigger filters, there may be no alternative to placing the gigantic filter upright on the ground, which isn't ideal, but it's totally acceptable. Finally, I wanted to discuss maximizing the lifespan of a carbon filter. Making them last a year is fairly easy, but you can stretch them out to 2 years of 24/7 use if you baby them. Depending on the levels of your grow room odor, you could even get longer out of a filter than that. There's 2 parts to babying a carbon filter. The first part is only using it in a space with less than 70% relative humidity. High humidity humidity just isn't good for the activated carbon. Since you only typically need odor control in a flowering area, an ideal humidity for flowering areas is well below 70%, you should already be good on that. I've seen a couple cases where people were growing in crowded residential spaces and needed odor control even for vegetative areas to keep that green smell away, but that's a rare circumstance. If that's your situation, you gotta do what you gotta do and end up going through a few extra filters. Anyway, the second part of babying involves actually cleaning the pre-filter, which admittedly many people do not bother doing. A pre-filter is on the exterior of the carbon filter, and the quality of it, by the way, is not a bad guide to the quality of the carbon filter overall. A crappy pre-filter on a cheap Alibaba carbon filter is thin and flimsy looking, whereas a high quality pre-filter is thicker and more plush looking. This one is about medium grade. To get the absolute longest lifespan out of a carbon filter, cleaning the pre-filter every couple of months from debris is a good idea. You can take it off or leave it on there if you like. Just make sure you vacuum it off nicely and do not wash a pre-filter with any water. Vacuums or compressed air only. And that's it. That's sizing, placement, and anal level maintenance. Pretty simple device, honestly. Please subscribe to eventually catch Carbon Filters 103. If I even have enough material for one more episode, hit that like button if this was useful, and we'll see you all next time.